I wanted to ask before I forget to, because Landon, what kind of art do you want to do, or do you do already? I don't know if I know what you do.
Well, I'm trying to get into storyboarding, so I'm working on storyboard projects that I'm, like writing myself and stuff like that. Uh, but yeah, I've been trying to like get into like a PA job or something. And, I live out in Los Angeles now, but I used to live in Connecticut actually. Um, but yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
That's cool. What do you do to get better at storyboarding? I'm sure these guys would want to know too, and I would too. Like, what kind of stuff do you do to get better at it?
I mean, yeah, basically, that's honestly, kind of stuff like you said, like, you know, having a community of people that you can talk to and ask questions and get feedback for. I certainly take advantage of Jack's kindness in helping with my projects. So just like trying to do that. Just getting feedback from people, honestly, is the biggest thing, and trying to interact with people online that are good artists, storyboard artists, and trying to maybe ask them questions.
Yeah, I would just want to add to that, like, because obviously I kind of came up from more like the animation side, so it's only fairly recently I've been doing like boarding and directing. But I think one of the important things to remember is like you can learn a lot about like acting and animation and all that stuff just from watching like movies and shorts and stuff. But storyboards not so much, because that's not the final image. That's not what you finally see. So you have to do a little bit of extra research to like really understand what goes into a good storyboard. But you can find so many like examples on YouTube, and obviously go and Google people's demo reels and stuff. There's a lot out there, but you do have to actively look for boarding and animatic examples.
Yeah. It's kind of difficult though, because honestly, a lot of storyboard artists have all of their stuff hidden behind password protected sites, or they just don't have a site publicly available, or they have a public site and a private site. And, there is stuff out there, but I do kind of wish that it was, I don't know, easier to find and more available.
Yeah. I know, like, one thing that I try to do is, like, I studied, like, I would watch, like, The Incredibles, like, a lot, like, over and over again, and kind of, like, pause, like, there's so many, like, cinematic shots and stuff like that. Yeah. I think there's literally this website, I forgot what website it was, but there's a website that, like, took, like, still frames of The Incredibles and showed, like, explained what each shot is. I have to find it. One of my friends sent me, like, a really, really, really good site. I'll shoot it to you if you don't already know what it is. But
yeah, I don't know what it is, but that would be nice to know.
Storyboarding is so complex. I feel like, I don't know.
Do you do storyboards for your videos and stuff, or do you just straight ahead?
I never kind of explained my process. So like, since I only have like a couple of weeks to do the art on a video, I don't really do like super nice storyboards. I kind of do like quick rough thumbs. And I'll usually I like thumbing on paper more than I do on my Cintiq. So usually I'll like type out a script or whatever, or I'll type things as, first I'll start with a whole bunch of like bullet points of thoughts. And then I'll kind of like put the bullet points in order, and I'll elaborate the bullet points. And then eventually I'll trim it down, and I'll use my iTalk app on my phone and like record a straight through and just time it and see how long it is. 'Cause I really try to keep my videos to like 4 minutes, or if it goes over 4 minutes, I'm screwed, because it's just like there's no time to animate that many frames in that many weeks. So I try really hard to trim it down, and then I'll kind of just like I'll if I'm thumbing on paper, I'll just like scan it in and crop the thumbs and put it in Premiere and just kind of like have it as a guide with my mix. Like I'll end up recording like a final version of the script. I'll edit it, and then I'll have an animatic essentially with like really, really rough storyboards or thumbs or whatever. And then I'll use that animatic and I'll put it in Adobe Animate at like the side. And I got this from Titmouse, by the way. This isn't like my genius idea. That's kind of what
this is gold.
Oh,
oh yeah.
I can talk stuff all day. But yeah, like that's what they do is once they have the animatic, they'll put the animatic in Animate and they'll have it as reference in there. So they'll have like, I'll kind of just follow the animatic and like make symbols. And I have like my whole little process in Animate. And then after that, I'll bring it into After Effects and stuff. But I don't know. I forgot like what I was even talking about.
Your process. You were going from you created the mix, the audio mix in Premiere, and then you created the animatic, which then you brought into Animate, and then you animated, and then you bring that into either Premiere or After Effects to edit.
I do the cameras and stuff actually in After Effects too.
Oh,
I don't know. Yeah, there's a camera feature in Adobe Animate, but I've been like too lazy to figure out how to learn it.
It's not if you know the cameras in After Effects, use those. The camera is cool in Animate, but it's not as refined as After Effects. So, yeah, your process works. It's keep doing that. The same thing with I did a tutorial on doing lip syncing in Animate, and people were commenting. What's funny is you used the automatic lip sync, but then you went back and did the manual lip sync anyway. And I'm like, yeah, but because it comes out better. So there's tools in Animate that are fine, but like they're better in After Effects. They're better in Photoshop. They're better in Premiere,
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say like before I go or whatever, because I got to go in like a few minutes or whatever. But Jack, if you have any like knowledge on being a director that you want to share with all of us right now, I'd love to hear the whole day. Like,
yeah, for sure. I mean, I was surprised even having been in the industry for a pretty long time. I've been doing animation professionally for over 15 years. And I think everybody has kind of a misconception about what being a director is. The kind of behind the scenes footage and the stories you always hear, and like, the special features always kind of show the director as this kind of like, Steven Spielberg mastermind. And that's somewhat true in like live action feature and commercial work, but in animation, it's like a totally different beast. I think people think you're just sitting in a director chair telling people what to do, and that's really not at all what happens. Being a director for animation is a lot more drawing. It's a lot more, you need to really understand film language, because you have your team of storyboard artists and your production folks and your revisionists and doing a lot of the legwork for you, but you still have to come in with the vision of like how you want this episode or this short or this feature to be paced. It's a lot about like pacing and acting notes, and I mean a lot of the same things that like a featured director would do, but it's all focused on like the drawings on the page or on the monitor, right? Which is a totally different mindset and beast that I think people don't really connect two and two. And then I think the thing that was like most surprising, I mean, everybody likes to think like, hey, director's like kind of at the top aside from like showrunner, but that's very not true. I mean, there's so many other people with their input, executives, showrunners, producers. So you're still fielding a lot of notes, right? And then you have to basically figure out how to implement those notes while still maintaining your vision and not disassembling the product so much that it's just not manageable. Like it's very easy to get a note that sounds benign and kind of simple, but then when you get in there and you're trying to implement it, you're like, man, this just destroys the scene, and I have to redo like 80 panels of boards, and it's like, okay, is that really feasible in a budget and a schedule? So a lot of it is also just like understanding, like you said, understanding production and understanding like the limitations and the requirements. So it's like, can I solve this simply by just like cropping in and fielding off so we don't even see that thing anymore? It's like a lot of it's just like creativity and driving. You have to be the like driving force to get it to the finish line. So it's like a real big balancing act between like the creative vision and helping your artists and yourself achieve that creative vision, but also like the real intense like reality of like production. Like you're really making something that's producible. And then kind of finally, that I think people don't really consider, particularly on like CG animated shows or even 2D shows, because often the story team with the director and the board artist happen before the final animation, is you have to remember, and like Landon was saying, that he's struggling finding examples. The storyboard and animatic work is not the final picture. So you're creating something that is really instructional material about how to produce a final image. So it's really common that the board artists and directors get like really overly obsessed with like how good their drawings are, or like how beautiful this is. And while that's all well and good, and myself as a drawing person and an illustrator, like I get it. I want to like do beautiful drawings. At the end of the day, it's really more about clarity. You're trying to provide the most clear instruction material for your overseas studio or your in-house animator, whoever's ultimately going to be producing that shot, because they're going to get it usually without knowing all of the back history that of like the notes and where this came from and how it evolved from thumbnail on page all the way to final animatic. They don't really know any of that. All they see is this final animatic and how they're going to produce a final image. So you want to make that like as clear and concise as possible with all the necessary information. So it's I don't know if that was a lot. I don't know if that really did it, but those were the kind of the things that surprised me, because I went into it with my own, preconceived notions of like what the role was.
Yeah.
But those were that would be my way of defining it now, like after having done it.
Oh man, that was so awesome to listen to. So like, it's like when people, I love this stuff. I could literally talk for like days about it. But like, right, like when people think director, at least when I first thought director before I started working in the industry, I thought like they literally can do and say whatever they want goes, and like whatever. But like you don't realize there's a budget and there's like a time frame and stuff like that. And yeah, and also it's a whole different ballgame when you're working with overseas animation studios, because like I worked on a show called Ball Masters for Adult Swim. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it, but it's with Christy Caracas. He created Super Jail. So Christy was in house with us at Titmouse and stuff, and the boards on Ball Masters like are so loose, and sometimes they'd be like almost stick figure-y because our animators are in house. So like we don't have to give them like polished, because we all know what's going on. We're all in the same meetings. But like then, the studio also worked on a show called like Tots for Disney, which is like a Disney show that's like CG and stuff, where like you'd have to make the boards, so much more readable and clear for the animators and the CG artists and stuff. And then, there's another show that I worked on called, we worked on a show called Son of Zorn for Fox. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it, but
I feel like I've heard of that. Son of Zorn.
Oh, I have. That's the one where it's like the He-Man character.
there were so many promotions for it, like everywhere. Like I feel like at least in New York City, like it's like promos all over the like subways and stuff. But like literally got canceled after one season. But it was so funny. I loved it. It was Zorn was was a animated character in a live action world.
Yeah.
And anyway, it was we worked with an overseas studio for that. That was being animated overseas, and sometimes we get frames back that would literally exactly match the boards.
Oh, Jesus.
Like, are so literal sometimes, like overseas, like you have to be. So anyway, it's like that ends up, bringing in a whole bunch of reuse that totally, makes the whole production schedule screwed up. So it's like, as a director, I didn't realize you have to worry about that shit too. So it's really cool to hear you talk about it, especially like a DreamWorks show. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a really fun experience for sure.